I've always been the careful one. The neutral one. Until I chose the man who made neutrality impossible. I know who he is before anyone says his name. Not because he announces himself. Because no one else breathes the way he does. The ballroom is loud in a refined, political way. Low laughter, crystal glasses, polished marble, reflecting gold light from chandeliers designed to intimidate more than illuminate. This is not a charity gala, it's not a celebration, it's a demonstration. Power meeting power under the polite disguise of alliance. I stand near the edge of the room with a glass of champagne I won't drink, observing patterns the way I always do. Who gravitates toward whom? Who avoids eye contact? Who speaks too quickly? Who waits? I survive by noticing. And then the air shifts. It isn't dramatic, no doors slam, no music stops. But conversations soften by half a degree. Spines straighten. And there he is. Roman Calder. He doesn't move like other men in this world. There's no theatrical pause, no scanning the room for reaction. He walks forward, as if the room already belongs to him and he's merely inspecting it. Dark suit. Not trendy, not flashy. Perfectly cut. No visible weapon. No visible excess. He doesn't look around. He doesn't need to. The room rearranges itself for him. I don't stare. That's rule 1. You never let powerful men think they've disrupted you. But I look once. Just enough. And he isn't looking at me. That unsettles me more than attention would have. Elena said he confirmed last minute. Natalie murmurs beside me. I heard. I reply. He doesn't attend neutral events. No, I say quietly. He attends necessary ones. She glances at me. You sound impressed. I sound observant. That's the truth. Roman Calder doesn't waste time. If he's here, there's a reason. He stops near the center of the room, exchanging measured nods with 2 men from the eastern corridor. No smiles, no handshakes. Respect without performance. I track the way people angle toward him, subtle shifts in proximity. He doesn't acknowledge most of them. He listens. Then he speaks. I can't hear the words from here, but I see the reaction. Agreement. Immediate. That's not charisma, that's authority. Don't, Elena says quietly. I hadn't realized I'd adjusted my stance. Don't what? I ask. Study him like that. I glance at her. I study everyone. Yes, she replies. But not like this. I don't argue. Because she isn't wrong. There's something different about him. Not attraction. Not yet. Recognition. The summit begins formally 30 minutes later. Private chamber. Fewer witnesses. More truth. I take my seat midway down the table, tablet open, posture composed. Roman sits at the far end. Not the head. But no one mistakes who leads. Introductions are unnecessary. Everyone knows everyone. This isn't about names. It's about leverage. The discussion moves quickly. Territory overlaps. Digital vulnerabilities. Transit corridors. I speak when necessary. Brief. Precise. He doesn't interrupt me. He doesn't praise. He doesn't react. He listens. And when I finish outlining a security projection, he speaks for the first time directly to me. Reyes. Just my last name. His voice is deeper than I expected. Calm. Measured. Not rushed. Yes. You're assuming compliance from the Southern Branch? It's the most efficient projection. It's the most optimistic. He corrects. There's no edge in his tone, just clarity. Efficiency often requires optimism, I reply. Optimism invites weakness, he says. Silence settles around the table. He's not arguing with me. He's adjusting the frame. And pessimism invites stagnation. I counter. A flicker in his gaze. Interest. Do you operate from optimism? He asks. I operate from pattern recognition. And patterns don't shift? He presses. They do, I reply. but not without warning. He studies me a second longer than necessary. And if the warning is you, the question lands heavier than it should. I don't operate that way, I say. He doesn't nod, doesn't smile, just says, "We'll see," and moves on. The dismissal is precise, intentional, and it lingers under my skin long after the discussion shifts. After the session adjourns, people cluster in small groups. I close my tablet carefully. "You held your ground," Elena says quietly. "He wasn't attacking." "No," she agrees. "He was measuring." "I know, I felt it. I don't seek him out. That would be amateur. But proximity happens naturally in a room like this. There are only so many exits. Only so many ways to avoid crossing paths. He's near the balcony when I step outside for air. The night is cool, city lights sharp and unforgiving below. He doesn't turn when I approach the railing. He already knows I'm there. "You don't like being challenged," he says. "It isn't a question." "I don't like assumptions," I reply. "They're efficient. They're lazy." A pause. Then, "You're disciplined." I am. Disciplined women are rarely honest with themselves. I turn toward him fully now. "That's a strange conclusion." "It's a common one," he replies. "And what do you think I'm dishonest about?" His gaze finally shifts to mine. Slow, direct. "You don't react." "I don't need to." "You avoid." "I survive." The word hangs between us. He studies me carefully. "You're not in danger here," he says. "That depends on your definition. Mine is precise." "I'm sure it is." Silence stretches. Not uncomfortable. Charged. He doesn't step closer, doesn't crowd. He occupies space without asking permission. "You think I'm destabilizing," he says. "I think you're intentional." "And that unsettles you?" "No." "Then why are you still here?" The question is quiet, controlled, and devastatingly accurate. Because I could have gone inside. I could have excused myself. I didn't. "I'm not fragile," I say. "I know. And you don't intimidate me." "I know." His calm certainty does something strange to my pulse. "You're not interested in intimidation," I say. "No." "What are you interested in?" He watches me carefully. "Structural integrity." That's not a romantic answer. His expression doesn't change. I'm not romantic. I believe him. "Why are you really here tonight?" I ask. He doesn't hesitate. "To observe who bends." "And have you?" "Yes." "And?" "You don't." The statement lands like both compliment and warning. "That disappoint you?" I ask. "No." He turns slightly toward the skyline. "Rigid structures crack under pressure," he says. "I'm not rigid?" "You're careful." "Yes." "And careful people ruin themselves slowly." The words settle deep. Not because they're cruel. Because they're measured. "You don't know me," I say. "No," he agrees. "Not yet." The implication isn't flirtation. It's inevitability. "You're assuming access," I reply. "I assume nothing." "Then why say that?" "Because you stayed." There it is again. Choice. He isn't pulling. He isn't persuading. He's observing my presence as evidence. "You think this is about attraction," I say. "No." "Then what is it?" He turns fully toward me now. "Control," he replies. "I control myself. For now. And you don't?" "I don't need to," he says calmly. "The difference in our definitions is stark." "I contain," he commands. Inside, the doors open again. Noise spills outward. He steps back first. Deliberate. Ending proximity without apology. "We'll work together," he says. "That seems likely. And you'll discover something." "What?" "That cost isn't always accidental." He walks inside without waiting for a response. No backward glance. No lingering. Just certainty. I remain on the balcony a moment longer. The city glows below, relentless and unsentimental. I don't feel shaken. I don't feel seduced. I feel identified, and that is infinitely more dangerous. Because attraction can be dismissed. Recognition cannot. When I rejoin the others, Natalie studies my face. You're quiet, she says. I'm thinking. Elena's gaze sharpens. About him. Yes, she exhales slowly. Be careful. I always am. That's the problem. I am careful, calculated, disciplined. And yet, when Roman Calder looked at me tonight, he didn't see fragility. He didn't see weakness. He saw pressure. And something in me didn't retreat. It leaned forward. Not impulsively, not recklessly, but consciously. Like a woman stepping toward a fire not to test it, but to feel exactly how hot it burns. I don't fear men like Roman. I understand them. That's why this feels dangerous. Because understanding isn't immunity, it's proximity. And proximity, in our world, always has a cost. The question isn't whether I'll recognize it. The question is whether I'll pay it anyway. Roman Calder does not request. He assigns. I learned that the following morning. The message is brief. Efficient. All cross-faction security audits will be routed through Reyes. Direct coordination required. RC. No greeting. No negotiation. Just decision. Elena forwards it to me without commentary, then texts separately. Is this acceptable? I stare at the message longer than necessary. Acceptable. That's a careful word. In our world, proximity is currency. And Roman just moved me closer without asking permission. Yes, I reply. Another lie. Subtle and elegant. Because acceptable isn't the right word. Interesting is. The first private coordination session is scheduled at his headquarters. Not neutral territory. His. The building is architectural dominance. Glass, steel, sharp angles, no ornamental softness. The kind of place designed to reflect sunlight so intensely it feels confrontational. I don't wear red. That would be predictable. Black blazer. Structured, clean lines. Hair controlled, discipline visible. His assistant escorts me to the top floor without conversation. The office doors open before I reach them. He's standing at the far end of the room. City skyline behind him, like a deliberate backdrop. He doesn't look surprised. He doesn't greet me. You're punctual, he says. I respect time. You respect control, he corrects. I set my tablet on the table between us. I respect efficiency. A flicker in his gaze. Acknowledgement. The room is expansive but minimal. Marble. Glass. No clutter. Nothing personal. Not even art. Just clarity. He gestures toward the table. Walk me through your redundancies. No small talk. No social buffer. I begin. Data security layers. Backup protocols. Cross-verification loops. I speak calmly, measured, precise. He listens without interruption. When I finish, he steps closer. Not into my space, but close enough that the air shifts. You assume loyalty in 3 of these contingencies, he says. I assume pattern consistency. Same thing. No, I reply. Loyalty is emotional. Pattern is behavioral. And behavior doesn't shift under pressure? It does, I say, but not without tells. And you catch them. Yes, he studies me quietly. Who catches yours? The question lands sharper than it should. I don't broadcast mine. Everyone broadcasts, he says. Most just don't realize it. He moves around the table slowly, not circling me, but repositioning. Reframing. You calculate, he says. Yes. You anticipate. Yes. You don't react. I don't need to. He stops directly across from me. That's not strength. I hold his gaze. It's survival. His expression doesn't shift. Survival implies threat, he says. Threat exists. Not here. The calm certainty unsettles me. You don't define safety, I reply. No, he agrees. I define power. The meeting lasts 2 hours. No raised voices, no overt tension, just continuous assessment. Every answer I give, he tests. Every projection, he reframes. He doesn't dismantle my logic, he stretches it. And by the end, I feel something I don't like. Engaged. You adapt quickly, he says as I gather my things. I don't enjoy stagnation. Good. There's that word again. Approval without warmth. You're aligning our sectors more aggressively than necessary, I say. Yes. Why? Because vulnerability thrives in distance. And proximity eliminates it? No, he says calmly. Proximity clarifies it. The statement lingers. He doesn't walk me to the door. He doesn't extend courtesy. He simply says, tomorrow, same time, and I nod. Because refusal would imply something I'm not ready to admit. That evening, Natalie calls. You've been quiet, she says gently. I've been working. With him. Yes. A pause. How does it feel? The question is innocent. Loaded. Efficient, I reply. That's not what I meant. I know. It feels focused. Elena's voice joins faintly in the background. Focused how? Like he removes distraction. Another pause. That's not a compliment, Elena says carefully. It's not criticism either, I reply. Natalie exhales softly. Sofia, I know what I'm doing. The words leave too quickly. Too defensively. I don't like that. The second meeting is shorter. Sharper. He doesn't ask about contingencies this time. He asks about me. Why did you stay on the balcony? The question catches me off guard. I didn't realize I was being monitored. You weren't. Then how? You don't linger without purpose, he says. And you observed that from across the room? Yes. I consider lying. I don't. I was curious, I say. About? You. He nods once. Good. The simplicity of the response unsettles me more than dismissal would. You're not threatened by my proximity, he says. No, you should be. Why? Because I don't pursue what resists. I'm not resisting. I know. The acknowledgement hangs heavy. Do you always speak like this? I ask. Like what? Like inevitability is a foregone conclusion. It usually is. That's arrogance. It's pattern recognition. I almost smile, he notices. That's the first time you reacted, he says quietly. I didn't react. You did. I straighten slightly. You're searching for cracks. Yes. And if you find one, I won't exploit it, he says. I don't believe that. I'll test it. That's worse. By the end of the week, proximity becomes routine. Daily coordination. Shared strategy revisions. Long silences, where we work in the same room without speaking. He doesn't flirt. He doesn't compliment. He doesn't touch. But he watches. Not constantly. Precisely. And the worst part? I don't feel objectified. I feel examined. On the fourth day, he asks, why did you warn her? I don't pretend to misunderstand. Because I saw it coming. And you didn't intervene. She made her choice. And you judge her for it. The accusation is mild, measured. I don't judge, I reply. You distance. That's protection. For whom? For me. He studies me carefully. You believe distance is immunity. I believe clarity is. And what's clear now? That you're attempting to destabilize me. And, is it working? Silence. He waits. Always waits. It's unnecessary, I say finally. That wasn't my question. Later that evening, as I prepare to leave, he steps closer than he has before. Not touching, but nearer, enough that I can feel his presence distinctly. You think you're immune because you understand cost, he says. I do understand it. Understanding isn't prevention. It's preparation. For what? I hold his gaze. For ruin. The word sits between us like a live wire. He doesn't smile, doesn't soften. Ruin implies regret, he says. No, I reply quietly. It implies consequence. And you're willing? The question is direct, unadorned. I should hesitate. I don't. Yes. The admission is quiet, measured, intentional. Something shifts in his expression. Not triumph. Recognition. Good, he says, and steps back, ending the moment before it can become something else. He always does that. He advances to the edge, then withdraws, leaving the air charged, leaving me recalibrating. When I leave his building that night, the city feels sharper, brighter, unforgiving. I check my phone. 3 messages from Natalie. 1 from Elena. None from me. Because I don't know what I would say. How do you explain proximity that feels less like temptation and more like inevitability? I don't want him in the way reckless women want danger. I want him in the way disciplined women test boundaries. Not to lose control, but to surrender it intentionally. That's the difference. And that difference is thin. Roman Calder doesn't chase. He doesn't seduce. He aligns. And every day I step into his office willingly. Knowing proximity is altering perception. Not just his of me, mine of myself. I am not unraveling. I am not distracted. I am not weak. But I am aware of something new. Pressure. And the slow, deliberate heat of standing too close to a man who doesn't soften for anyone. This will ruin me. Not explosively, not dramatically. Carefully. And I am not walking away. Not yet. The first crack isn't visible. It's internal. And it doesn't look like weakness. It looks like permission. By the second week of daily coordination, Roman stops testing projections and starts testing silence. We work across from each other at the long marble table in his office. The skyline is sharp behind him, afternoon light spilling clean and bright across polished surfaces. No dim corners. No shadows to hide in. He prefers clarity. So do I. Which is why this feels dangerous. You adjusted the northern encryption without notice, he says without looking up. Yes. Why? Because your secondary team hesitated. They hesitated for verification. They hesitated because they didn't trust the source. He lifts his eyes slowly. And you do? I trust data. And me? The question lands quietly. Not flirtation, not challenge. Inquiry. I don't answer immediately. Because this isn't about trust. It's about proximity. You're predictable, I say. His brow shifts almost imperceptibly. That's not the same thing. It's enough. For now, he presses. Yes. He stands and walks toward the window, hands resting lightly at his sides. You're aware of the optics, he says. Yes. Of this. He doesn't gesture between us. He doesn't need to. Yes. And they don't concern me. That's untrue. I hold his gaze steadily. They don't control me. That wasn't my point. Then clarify it. He turns fully toward me. You care about credibility, yes. You care about neutrality, yes. And you're standing in my office every day, yes. And that doesn't shift perception? It might. And you don't mind? I pause. There it is, the thing I don't say. I mind. I admit. But I don't retreat. Something settles in his expression. Recognition. That evening, Elena calls. You're spending too much time there. Time is strategic. That's not what I meant. I lean against my kitchen counter, staring at the city beyond the glass. You think I'm compromised? I think proximity changes allegiance, she says carefully. I haven't shifted allegiance. Not visibly. And privately? Silence. I don't operate privately against you, I reply. That's not the same as saying you're unaffected. She's right. And that's the problem. I'm in control, I say. You always are, she answers. But there's doubt in her voice. And I don't like that. The next day, Roman cancels the morning review, reschedules for late evening. Why the change? I ask when I arrive. Daylight invites distraction, he says. It's the first time we've met after dark. The city outside is electric, alive. His office is lit bright and deliberate, no softness in the glow. He doesn't dim environments. He exposes them. You're unsettled, he says as I set down my tablet. I'm not. You adjusted your schedule twice. That's logistics. It's avoidance. I don't avoid. You do. The calm certainty irritates me. You're assuming intent. I'm observing behavior. And what behavior are you observing? That you're calculating exit points. He noticed. Of course he noticed. You don't intimidate me, I say evenly. I know. Then stop implying I'm destabilized. I didn't imply it, he says. I asked. Silence stretches. Not empty, dense. He steps closer. Not invading, not touching, just narrowing the air between us. You warned her, he says quietly. Yes. And you watched her choose. Yes. And you didn't intervene. She made her decision. And now? And now what? You're standing in the same position. I'm not. How is it different? The question cuts deeper than it should. Because I know how it's different. Claire was reckless. I am deliberate. She was reactive. I am measured. She fell. I step. That's the difference, I say softly. You think intention protects you. Yes. It doesn't. My pulse tightens. You believe this ends badly. Yes. And you're still here. Yes. Why? The question isn't mocking. It's clinical. Because you see me. Because you don't soften the truth. Because you don't pretend this is harmless. I don't say any of that. I don't retreat from cost. I say instead. He studies me for a long moment. Cost isn't always visible at the beginning. I know. Then what are you waiting for? The honesty of the question unsettles me. I don't have a clean answer. And he knows it. He steps closer again. This time, near enough that the space between us becomes intentional. You don't react, he says. I choose when to. Choose now. My breath shifts slightly. That's not how I operate. You're avoiding. I'm controlling. You're afraid. The word lands sharp. I'm not afraid of you. I didn't say you were. Then what am I afraid of? He looks directly into my eyes. Of wanting something that will alter you. The truth of it hits harder than accusation. I need to pause here because this was the first moment I realized I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of myself. Of what I would let him take. He doesn't touch me. That's the most devastating part. He waits. Like always. You don't seduce, I say quietly. No. You don't persuade. No. You state. Yes. And you expect compliance. No, he replies. I expect clarity. And if clarity ruins me? His gaze doesn't waver. Then you were always willing. The air feels thinner. Sharper. I should step back. I don't. You're not offering protection, I say. No. You're not offering secrecy. No. You're not offering safety. No. Then what are you offering? He considers me carefully. Position. The word settles. Not romance, not softness. Position. You want me beside you. Yes. And that shifts everything. Yes. And you don't care what it costs. I care, he says calmly. I just don't prioritize avoidance. The room is bright, clean, exposed. There's no place to hide. And that's what makes this feel real. I won't be hidden, I say. You won't be, he replies. I won't be reduced to leverage. You won't. And you won't pretend this is harmless? I won't. Every answer is steady, measured, no heat, no hunger, just inevitability. Then say it, he says quietly. Say what? That you want it. The directness hits like impact. I hold his gaze, steady, unflinching. I want proximity, I say. Why? Because you don't lie. And that matters. Yes. And you understand the consequence. Yes. And you're choosing it. The word again. Choosing. Yes. His hand finally moves. Not aggressively, not abruptly. Just a slow, deliberate lift, fingers brushing the edge of my jaw. Not gripping. Not claiming. Testing. My breath doesn't break. But it shifts. You don't tremble, he observes. I don't panic. You don't hesitate. I calculate. And you still step forward. Yes. His thumb moves slightly along my jawline. Not intimate, not yet, just contact. This will alter perception, he says. I know. It will shift allegiance. I know. It will cost you neutrality. I know. And you're staying. Yes, he leans closer. Close enough that I feel the warmth of him. Close enough that distance becomes choice. He doesn't kiss me. He doesn't demand. He waits. I close the space. Deliberately. Our mouths meet. Slow. Controlled. No urgency. No chaos. Just acknowledgement. This is happening. His hand settles at my waist. Firm. Steady. Not possessive. Present. The kiss deepens slightly, measured, restrained, precise, like everything else between us. And then, he pulls back first, breath steady, eyes clear. You knew, he says. Yes. You still do. Yes. And you're not undone. No. Good. When I leave his office that night, the city feels different. Not brighter, not darker, closer. Like something irreversible has shifted, even if no one else can see it yet. I don't feel reckless. I don't feel lost. I feel aligned. And that is the most dangerous feeling of all. Because alignment isn't accidental. It's chosen. And I chose. The first yes doesn't feel reckless. It feels earned. That's the dangerous part. After the kiss, nothing changes. And everything does. Roman doesn't shift tone the next morning. He doesn't reference it. He doesn't soften or sharpen. He continues as if proximity was inevitable. And I match him. Because this was never about losing control. It was about choosing when to release it. 3 days pass before he addresses it directly. We're alone again in his office, late afternoon light pouring in bright and golden across the marble floors. He closes the file in front of him deliberately. You don't regret it, he says. It isn't a question. No. You don't feel destabilized. No. You don't feel used. No. His gaze sharpens slightly. Good. There's that word again. Approval without tenderness. You're not surprised, I say. No. You expected it. Yes. And if I hadn't stepped forward, I would have waited. For how long? As long as necessary. The patience in his tone does something quiet to my pulse. You don't chase, I say. No. You position. Yes. And you positioned me. I aligned you, he corrects. With what? With what you already wanted. The air shifts. He steps around the table slowly. stopping close enough that I feel his presence without being crowded. "You're disciplined," he says quietly. "Yes." "You calculate cost." "Yes." "And you accept it." "Yes." "You don't seek protection." "No." "You don't need to be persuaded." "No." His fingers lift, brushing a strand of hair back from my shoulder. Not intimate. Evaluative. "You want this," he says. "It isn't seduction, it's confirmation." Yes. There's no rush, no urgency. He doesn't grab, he doesn't pull. He rests his hand at my waist and waits. That's the difference between him and every other man I've known. He never takes what isn't offered. I close the distance again, not impulsively, not reactively, deliberately. Our mouths meet slower this time. Less surprise. More intention. His hand moves from my waist to my lower back, steady, grounding. I feel the weight of him. Controlled strength, contained power. He doesn't kiss like he's hungry. He kisses like he's claiming a position. Measured. Confident. My hands slide up his chest, fingers brushing the clean line of his jacket before curling lightly into the fabric. Not gripping. Anchoring. He deepens the kiss just slightly. Not wild. Not frantic. Just enough to shift the temperature. And I let him. Because I want to. "You're still thinking," he murmurs against my mouth. I don't stop. "You should." "I don't need to." He exhales slowly. Then his hand tightens at my waist just enough to make me feel it. "Let go," he says. It isn't a command. It's invitation. I hesitate, not because I'm unsure. Because surrender is unfamiliar territory. He feels it. Of course he does. "You don't lose yourself," he says quietly. "You authorize access." The words undo something small and precise inside me. Authorize. Not collapse. Not fall. Authorize. My fingers tighten slightly in his jacket, and I let the control shift, not entirely, but enough. He walks me backward slowly until my hips brush the edge of the marble table. The surface is cool against the back of my thighs. His hands remain steady, one at my waist, the other lifting to rest lightly at my jaw. He tilts my face upward just slightly. Not force. Alignment. "You knew," he says again. "Yes." "And you're not afraid." "I am," I admit quietly. His eyes sharpen. "Of what?" "Of wanting it." The truth hangs between us. "And yet," he says softly. "And yet," he kisses me again. Deeper. Slower. His thumb traces the line of my jaw before sliding down the side of my neck. The touch is warm. Intentional. Not rushed. Every movement is deliberate, as if he's mapping territory he intends to hold. My breath shifts. Not panicked. Just heavier. He notices. "You don't unravel," he says quietly. "No, but you respond." "Yes." His mouth trails along the curve of my jaw, down to the space just below my ear. My fingers slide into his hair. Not pulling. Just feeling. The control between us is balanced. That's what makes it intoxicating. No one is overpowering. No one is collapsing. We're stepping forward in equal measure. He lifts me easily onto the edge of the table. Not abrupt, not aggressive, just firm and certain. His hands settle at my waist again, thumbs brushing lightly along my sides. "You're choosing this," he says. "Yes." "You understand the cost." "Yes." "And you won't blame me." "No." The honesty settles heavy and real. He leans in again, mouth capturing mine with more intensity now. Heat building. Still controlled. But undeniable. My legs shift slightly, drawing him closer without thought. The contact between us becomes unmistakable. Solid. Certain. He pauses, just enough to look at me. You can stop, he says. The offer is real. No ego, no challenge, just fact. I won't, I reply. His hands slide slowly along my thighs, deliberate and measured, heat following the path of his touch. My breath deepens again. Not frantic, not chaotic, just present. He kisses down the line of my neck, over the curve of my shoulder. My fingers tighten in his jacket once more. Not from uncertainty, from sensation. He feels the shift. Moves closer. His voice lowers slightly. Say it. What? That you want me? I hold his gaze, unflinching. I want you. The admission feels less like surrender and more like clarity. His mouth returns to mine. This time, there's less restraint. Still controlled. Still precise. But heat threads through it now. Steady. Building. Undeniable. His hands move with intention, mapping my body through the fabric of my clothes, tracing lines he intends to memorize. My hands slide under his jacket, feeling the solid warmth beneath the crisp fabric of his shirt. The world narrows. Bright light, marble beneath my palms. His breath against my skin, and the slow, deliberate escalation between us. No frenzy, no chaos. Just choice. Again and again. Choice. The moment tilts. The heat sharpens. His hands move lower. My breath catches fully this time. He pauses, looks at me, not asking permission, confirming alignment. I nod once. Small, certain. Clothes shifting. Fabric loosening. Heat replacing space. And just before the line between control and abandon fully dissolves, my world tilts into him, and nothing else matters at this moment. I just feel and surrender to my choice. I lie back against the cool marble, catching my breath slowly. He stands between my knees, hands still at my waist, steady. Not leaving, not retreating. His forehead rests briefly against mine. No words, just presence. When he lifts me down from the table, he doesn't rush. He adjusts my dress carefully, smooths the fabric with quiet attention, not possessive, not apologetic, intentional. You're not fragile, he says. I know. You're not altered. I consider that. I am, I reply softly. How? I don't regret it. Something shifts in his gaze. Approval. Recognition. Good, he says. Later, when I'm alone in my apartment, I replay the evening in precise detail. Not the heat, not the physicality, the clarity. He never promised safety, never offered protection, never pretended this would remain hidden, and I stepped forward anyway. Not because I was overwhelmed, not because I was manipulated, because I wanted to feel exactly how much it would cost, and I was willing. This will ruin me. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but carefully, deliberately. And tonight, for the first time, I said yes. Reputation doesn't fracture loudly, it tilts, subtly. One look held too long. One room that quiets when you enter. One conversation that stops just before you arrive. I notice all of it. That's the problem. It starts with seating. At the next summit, my place card is no longer beside Elena. It's 2 seats closer to Roman. No explanation. No announcement. Just adjustment. I consider moving it. I don't. Because that would imply discomfort. And I refuse to display it. Roman arrives last. As always, the room calibrates around him. He doesn't acknowledge me immediately. He takes his seat. Opens his folder. Waits. The distance between us is minimal now. Measured. Intentional. I feel the shift in the room before I see it. the way eyes flick between us, the way conversations lower half a degree. Proximity is visible now. You approve the Eastern adjustment, he says without looking at me. Yes. You didn't hesitate. No. A pause. You're adapting. Yes. His hand moves slightly along the table, closer to mine. Not touching. Close enough to be seen. The gesture is quiet, calculated. A message without language. I don't move away. That's the second message. Elena's eyes meet mine across the table, sharp, assessing. Not accusing, just noting. Natalie looks between us once, then lowers her gaze. Sofia, you're visible. I hear it even though no one says it. After the session ends, Elena corners me near the corridor. This is no longer neutral, she says quietly. I'm aware. You're being positioned. I'm standing where I choose. That's not the same thing. It is to me. Her jaw tightens slightly. You think you're in control. I am. Of optics? Yes. She studies me carefully. You're not hidden. I never intended to be. And you're comfortable with that? Yes. The lie is subtle, refined, not entirely false, just incomplete. Natalie approaches more gently later that evening. Is this serious? She asks. Her tone isn't judgmental, just worried. Yes, I reply. How serious? As serious as he is. That answer lands heavier than I expect. She exhales slowly. He doesn't soften, she says. I don't need him to. And if he never does, then nothing changes. She looks at me like she wants to argue. She doesn't. That's worse. Roman doesn't ask how the meeting went. He already knows. Instead, he says, you didn't move the card. No, you could have. Yes. But you didn't. No. He steps closer. You understand what that communicates. Yes. And you're comfortable. Yes. He studies me for a long moment. You're lying. The word is quiet, measured. About what? You're not comfortable. I hold his gaze. I'm willing. The distinction matters. To me. He nods once. That's different. Rumors accelerate within days. Nothing explicit, nothing vulgar, just inference. Questions about alignment, about long-term positioning, about influence. I'm no longer asked neutral questions. I'm asked strategic ones, as if my proximity to Roman has already shifted loyalty. It hasn't. But perception doesn't require proof, only suggestion. Do you speak for him, a council member asks during a private review? No. But you coordinate his sector. Yes. And you're aligned. I'm efficient. That's not what I asked. I don't answer. Because there is no clean answer anymore. That evening, I stand on Roman's balcony again. City lights sharp below. You anticipated this, I say. Yes. You accelerated it. Yes. Why? Because ambiguity breeds suspicion. And visibility breeds clarity. I turn toward him. This clarity costs me. Yes. And you don't intervene. No. Why? Because you said you didn't want protection. He's right. That's what I said. I didn't mean political isolation. I say quietly, you're not isolated. Not yet. You won't be, he says. That's not reassurance. It's assessment. He steps closer. You're respected. For now. You're strong. That's not permanent. He studies me. You're not losing credibility, he says. You're redefining it. The shift in language unsettles me. Redefining. Not eroding. But change is rarely gentle. The first public fracture happens at a charity dinner. I arrive alone. By choice. Roman arrives separately. Also by choice. We don't enter together. But proximity finds us anyway. He stops beside me during the reception. Doesn't touch. Doesn't claim. But stands close enough that the room notices. A donor approaches. "Miss Reyes," he says politely. "I hear you're coordinating more directly with Calder now." I coordinate where efficiency requires. And that aligns you strategically. I align with performance. The man smiles thinly. And performance favors him. Roman answers before I can. Performance favors results. The donor nods quickly. Moves on. I exhale slowly. You didn't need to respond, I say. Yes, he replies. I did. Why? Because I don't let others define your position. That catches me off guard. You said you wouldn't protect me. I'm not protecting you, he says calmly. I'm clarifying you. The distinction is subtle, but important. Later that night, Elena texts, "You're drifting." I stare at the screen. Not drifting, choosing. There's a difference. But it feels smaller now. When I see the girls the next morning, the shift is visible. Not hostility. Distance. Conversations stop when I approach. Not intentionally. Just naturally. As if alignment has already redrawn lines. Natalie tries to bridge it. "So, dinner last night?" she asks lightly. "It was productive." "With him?" "Yes." Silence. "Sofia?" "No, that's me." I catch myself thinking in third person. Detached. Observing my own position as if it's someone else's. That's new. "You're becoming part of his structure," Elena says quietly when we're alone. "I'm still myself." For now. The echo of Roman's earlier words unsettles me. "You think I'm losing something," I say. "I think you're exchanging something." For what? Influence. And that's negative? It's permanent. The word lands heavy. Permanent. That evening, I confront him directly. "You're absorbing me into your narrative." "No," he says. "You're stepping into it." "That's the same thing." "No," he replies. "Absorption is passive. You're deliberate." "You knew this would cost me credibility." "Yes." "And you move forward anyway." "Yes." "And you expect me to accept that?" "Yes." The steadiness in his voice is infuriating. "And if I decide it's too much?" He doesn't hesitate. "Then you leave." No panic. No persuasion. Just fact. "You wouldn't stop me." No. The freedom in that answer feels heavier than control would have. "I won't be secondary," I say. "You aren't." "I won't be hidden." "You're not." "I won't be reduced to rumor." "You won't." His certainty is infuriating. Then why does it feel like I'm shrinking? He steps closer. Not touching. Just present. "Because you're used to being neutral." Yes. "And neutrality feels safe." Yes. "And this doesn't." No. Silence. "You said you weren't afraid." He says, "I'm not afraid of you. You're afraid of change." The truth slices. Because he's right. Reputation isn't just how others see you. It's how you see yourself reflected. And I've always been the observer. The steady one. The disciplined one. Now I'm something else. Visible. Aligned. Altered. "Tell me," he says quietly. "Do you regret it?" The question hangs between us. Not accusatory. Not urgent. Just real. I think of the looks across the table. The shifted seating. The whispered assumptions. The girls. Distance. The donor's thin smile. the weight of standing beside him without apology. And I answer honestly, no, because regret would imply I didn't understand. And I did. From the beginning. You're recalibrating, he says. Yes. Good. There it is again. Approval without comfort. And somehow that steadiness keeps me anchored. When I return home that night, I stand in front of the mirror longer than usual. Not examining appearance. Examining identity. I am still disciplined. Still calculating. Still deliberate. But something has shifted. Not eroded. Shifted. This is the cost of proximity. Not scandal. Not chaos. Alignment. And alignment redraws lines you thought were permanent. I knew that. I calculated it. And I stepped forward anyway. Not because I didn't understand, but because I did. And I decided the cost was worth paying. The line becomes visible the moment someone forces you to stand on it. Up until now, I've been walking beside Roman. Close. Visible. Aligned. But not claimed. Tonight changes that. The emergency session is called at dusk. Unexpected. Unscheduled. Hostile. A northern faction has challenged Roman's expansion publicly, questioning legitimacy, influence, structural control. It isn't just politics. It's positioning. And positioning demands clarity. I'm already seated when he enters the chamber. The room is bright, sterile, unforgiving, no soft lighting to blur expression. He doesn't look at me immediately. He addresses the room. Calm, measured, unbothered. But the undercurrent is sharp. This isn't negotiation, this is dominance. Halfway through the exchange, the challenge shifts. From logistics, to me. Reyes, alignment compromises neutrality, one of the northern delegates says. The words are clean, strategic, not emotional. I don't react. I never react. Roman's gaze slides to me for a fraction of a second. Assessment, not rescue. She coordinates. The delegate continues, but coordination shifts allegiance. The room stills. This is the moment where he can distance, clarify professional boundaries, reduce implication. Instead, he speaks. She stands where she chooses. No elaboration, no denial, no softening, just confirmation. And that position is beside you? The delegate presses. Yes. One word. Final. The air shifts completely. No more ambiguity. No more speculation. It's no longer rumor. It's structure. The meeting ends shortly after. No formal conclusion, just recalibration. As the room empties, I remain seated. He approaches slowly. You didn't hesitate, he says. No. You could have. No. You understood what that confirmed. Yes. And I meant it. His eyes hold mine steadily. This will ruin you, he says quietly. Not dramatic, not emotional, just fact. I know. You will lose neutrality. Yes. You will lose leverage. Yes. You will lose certain alliances. Yes. And you're staying. Yes. But this is the moment I should have walked away. I didn't. So before I tell you what happened next, would you choose safety? Or the man who removes it and stands there anyway? He doesn't touch me at first. We're alone now. The chamber doors sealed. The lights bright and clear. You don't do this halfway, he says. I don't do anything halfway. And you understand I won't shield you from fallout. I don't want shielding. You won't receive reassurance. I don't need it. You won't receive apology. I'm not asking for one. Silence stretches between us. Not fragile. Just full. You won't be secondary, he says. I won't. You won't be hidden. I won't. And you won't retreat. No. He steps closer. Slowly. Intentionally. The air tightens. His hand reaches for my waist. Firm, but not forceful. Grounded. You're decisive, he says. Yes. And you're aware of consequence. Yes. And you're choosing it. Yes. The word lands heavier now. Because this time it's irreversible. He kisses me without hesitation. Not slow. Not exploratory. This isn't discovery. It's confirmation. His mouth moves with certainty. Hands firm at my waist, pulling me fully against him. There's less restraint this time. Less distance. My hands slide up his chest, fingers curling into the fabric of his jacket, holding him close. Not from uncertainty. From intent. You're steady, he murmurs against my mouth. I am. Even now. Yes. His hands move to my hips, lifting me onto the edge of the conference table in one smooth motion. The marble is cool against my skin. The room is still bright. No shadows. No illusion. Just clarity. He steps between my knees, hands sliding slowly along my thighs. Deliberate and controlled, my breath shifts. Not panicked. Not frantic. Present. Aware. This is the cost, he says quietly. I know. You won't resent it. I won't. His mouth moves along my jaw, down my neck, the warmth of his breath steady against my skin. The touch is deeper now. Less measured. More certain. My fingers slide into his hair, holding him there. For once, I don't calculate. I feel. His hands move beneath the line of my dress, slow and intentional, mapping the curve of my body with precision. There is no rush, no desperation, just escalation. His mouth returns to mine, deeper this time, controlled hunger breaking through the discipline we've maintained for weeks. My body responds before my mind can reassert order, and for the first time, I let it. You're not breaking, he says. I'm bending. The admission is soft, real. His hands tighten at my hips, grounding me as the heat between us builds steadily, deliberately. There's no chaos in it, no loss of control, just surrender, offered and accepted. Clothes shift. Fabric loosens. His breath grows heavier against my skin. Mine matches. The world narrows to sensation and certainty. I sit at the edge of the table, breath slowing, his hands still resting at my waist. Not possessive, not claiming, just present. He adjusts the line of my dress carefully, smooths the fabric back into place. You're not undone, he says. No. You're altered. Yes. By choice. Yes. His forehead rests briefly against mine. No apology. No promise, just acknowledgement. You won't ask me to fix what comes next, he says. I won't. You won't blame me. I won't. And you won't retreat. No. He steps back slowly, giving me space. Not distancing, just equalizing. When I leave the building, the city feels sharper, like every light is watching. I check my phone. 3 missed calls from Natalie. 1 message from Elena. We need to talk. They know. Of course they do. Alignment isn't quiet anymore. It's visible, public, permanent. Standing in my apartment later that night, I replay his words. This will ruin you. Not as warning, as assessment. And I accepted it. Not because I didn't understand, but because I did. I don't need saving. I don't need shielding. I don't need illusion. I need clarity. And Roman gives it without hesitation. This will cost me reputation, position, possibly friendships. It will shift how I'm seen, how I'm trusted, how I'm aligned. And I am still here. Not trembling, not regretting, not uncertain. Just aware. I knew the line. I stepped over it. And I didn't look back. Ruin doesn't always look like collapse. Sometimes it looks like standing exactly where you said you would, and letting everyone see it. The invitation is deliberate. High-level negotiation, open attendance, political visibility. Not a closed chamber, not a quiet summit. This one is meant to be witnessed. Roman doesn't ask me to attend. He sends the time. That's all. And I go. The hall is expansive, bright, lined with white marble columns and floor-to-ceiling glass. Nothing shadowed, nothing hidden. Visibility is the point. When I enter, conversations don't stop. They recalibrate. Eyes follow. Some curious, some cautious, some already decided. I feel every shift. I catalog every glance, not because I'm insecure, because I've always observed rooms this way. The difference now is I am the one being observed. Roman arrives 5 minutes later. He doesn't look for me. He walks to the center of the room, speaks briefly with 2 sector leads, and then, without signaling, steps back slightly. The space beside him opens, deliberate, available. The choice is mine. Every eye in the room tracks the movement. He doesn't gesture. He doesn't beckon. He waits. Like always. I walk forward, steady, measured. I take the place beside him. Not behind. Not slightly removed. Beside. The room shifts audibly. Not gasps, not whispers. Just a tightening. The end of ambiguity. This is unnecessary, one of the Southern delegates says sharply. Roman doesn't look at him. It's precise, he replies. She compromises neutrality. She operates by choice, he says evenly. And that choice is alignment. Yes. The word lands without apology, without elaboration. Just yes. My pulse remains steady. I don't flinch. I don't step back. Because this is what we already confirmed. This is what I accepted. Visibility. Position. Cost. You understand what this does to her? Another voice presses. Roman finally turns slightly. I do. And you proceed. Yes. The silence that follows is thick. Political. Strategic. Not emotional. They aren't offended. They're recalculating. And so am I. The negotiation moves forward. Hard lines drawn. Territories clarified. Roman doesn't soften his stance. He doesn't compromise. He doesn't gesture toward me again. But he doesn't distance either. He lets me stand there, fully visible, fully aligned. The message is simple. She is here. She stays. After the session, the fracture becomes tangible. A former ally approaches me privately. You're making this permanent, he says. It already was. You could have stayed neutral. I chose not to. You'll lose influence. I'm aware. You'll lose access. I'm adjusting. He studies me carefully. You're confident. No, I say honestly. I'm decisive. He nods once. That's worse. Because decisive women don't get dismissed. They get remembered. Elena confronts me that evening. Not loudly. Not publicly. Just controlled and sharp. This was a declaration, she says. Yes. You didn't have to stand there. Yes, I say T. Did. No, she says quietly. You didn't. The ache in her voice is subtle, but real. I'm not confused, I say. I know, and I'm not manipulated. I know, and I'm not naive. I know. She exhales slowly. That's what makes this harder. Natalie doesn't confront me. She watches. That hurts more. There's distance now, not hostility. Absence. The kind that grows without confrontation. The kind that becomes permanent before you realize it has. Later, alone with Roman in his office, I don't wait for him to speak first. You didn't need to make it public, I say. Yes, I did. Why? Because ambiguity invites pressure. And clarity invites consequence. Yes, You accelerated the timeline. Yes. Why? He studies me steadily. Because you don't operate well in limbo. He's right. I don't. I prefer lines. Defined spaces. Clear edges. You could have softened it, I say. I don't soften. I know. And you don't want me to. He says it like fact, not assumption. I hold his gaze. No. He steps closer. Not to dominate, to narrow the air between us. You're unsettled, he says. I'm recalibrating. Because you felt the shift. Yes. And you didn't retreat. No. Why? Because retreat would mean I miscalculated. Because retreat would mean I was afraid. Because retreat would mean I didn't understand the cost. I don't reverse decisions once made, I say. His hand lifts, resting at my waist. Not claiming, not reassuring, grounding. You're not shrinking, he says quietly. It feels like I am. That's perception adjusting. To what? To you being visible. The word lingers. Visible. I've always preferred the edge of the room. The place where observation is power. Now I'm at the center. And the center burns differently. You don't regret it, he says. It isn't a question. I search for hesitation. There isn't any. No, you don't miss neutrality. I miss invisibility. He studies that carefully. Invisibility is protection. Yes. And you chose to remove it. Yes. And you're not asking me to fix that. No. He nods once. Approval without warmth. Good. The press release comes the next morning. Not romantic, not dramatic, strategic. Expanded partnership confirmed. My name included in the operational structure. Not labeled as anything personal. Not softened. Just positioned. It's enough. Phones buzz. Messages flood. Questions I don't answer. Assumptions I don't correct. The girls don't call. That silence is louder than any accusation. Standing in front of the mirror that evening, I study myself carefully. I look the same. Composed. Disciplined. Measured. But something beneath that has shifted. I am no longer peripheral. I am integrated. And integration means exposure. When I arrive at his penthouse later, he's standing near the windows, city lights bright and sharp below. You saw it, he says. Yes. You weren't surprised. No. You're steady. Yes, he turns toward me fully. You knew this would happen. Yes. And you're still here. Yes. He steps closer slowly. You understand this doesn't reverse. I don't expect it to. You understand you're being watched. I always am. Not like this. No. Silence settles between us. Not tense. Just real. He lifts his hand to my jaw, thumb brushing lightly along my cheek. You chose visibility, he says. Yes. You chose alignment. Yes. You chose me. The word hangs heavier than the others. Yes. I did. His mouth lowers to mine. Slow. Intentional. Not heated. Not urgent. Just acknowledgement. When he pulls back, his forehead rests briefly against mine. You're not fragile, he says. I know. You're not ruined. Not yet. A flicker in his eyes. You won't be ruined, he corrects. You'll be redefined. The distinction settles deep. Later, alone in his bedroom, I stand by the window, watching the city breathe. I think about the seating shift. The public declaration. The press release. Elena's tight voice. Natalie's silence. The recalibration of rooms. I think about the version of myself who once believed neutrality was strength. And the version of myself now, standing fully in alignment with a man who never offered safety. This is the ruin, not collapse, not heartbreak, exposure, permanent positioning, the removal of invisibility. And I accepted it. Not blindly, not impulsively, deliberately. I step away from the window and walk toward him. He doesn't ask why. He never does. He simply makes space beside him. And I take it. Not because I fell, because I chose, and the world saw me do it. The aftermath isn't loud, it's quiet, structured, permanent. The first week after the announcement redraws everything. Not explosively, not emotionally, strategically. I am no longer asked neutral questions. I am asked confirming ones. Will Calder approve this? Does your alignment extend to oversight? Are we assuming long-term integration? The language shifts. Subtle, clinical, and every shift reminds me. I stepped forward. I stood beside him. I allowed visibility to become permanence. Natalie stops calling. Not dramatically. Not in anger. Just less. Then not at all. Elena speaks when necessary. Short. Professional. Measured. The warmth remains somewhere beneath it. But it's layered now. Guarded. I don't blame them. They warned me. Not about him. About cost. And I answered anyway. Roman doesn't ask how I'm handling it. He doesn't soften his schedule. He doesn't alter the pace. He simply integrates me fully into his structure. Meetings I once observed from distance, I now attend openly. Rooms that once recalibrated cautiously, now recalibrate decisively. Not because he declared ownership. Because I didn't retreat. That's the difference. You've stabilized faster than expected, he says one evening. Expected by whom? By them? And by you? Yes. You thought I would waver. I considered it. And? You didn't. No praise, just fact. The loneliness arrives unexpectedly. Not because I doubt him. Because I miss being unseen. Neutrality was armor. Now I walk into rooms without it. Visible, aligned, measured differently. I stand taller. But I feel the weight of it. I run into Elena at a private review session 2 weeks later. We stand across a polished table, papers between us like a boundary. You're steady, she says quietly. I am. You don't look regretful? I'm not. She studies me carefully. I thought this would fracture you. I knew it wouldn't. And that's what unsettles me, she replies, because fracture implies surprise. And I was never surprised. I didn't drift, I say softly. No, she agrees. You stepped. Yes. And you're comfortable with the cost. I pause. Comfortable isn't the right word. Then what is? Committed. The word lands heavier than comfort ever could. She nods slowly. I won't pretend I like it. I don't expect you to. But I won't treat you like you're lost. I'm not. No, she says. You never were. That's the closest we come to peace. Not forgiveness. Recognition. Natalie takes longer. When she finally agrees to meet, it's quiet. A cafe. Neutral ground. She watches me carefully. You look the same, she says. I am. No, she replies gently. You're not. I don't argue. Because she's right. I thought you'd wake up, she says softly. I didn't fall asleep. I thought he'd overwhelm you. He didn't. And you don't wish he had? The question is innocent, sharp. No. Her eyes soften. Then this was never about him. No, it wasn't. It was about me. That night, standing in Roman's penthouse, I finally say it out loud. This wasn't about you. He doesn't look surprised. I know. It was about visibility. Yes. It was about stepping out of neutrality. Yes. It was about choosing consequence. Yes. He turns toward me fully. And you did. I did. He steps closer. Not to comfort. To stand beside me. You're not smaller, he says quietly. I feel exposed. Exposure isn't weakness. No. It's position. I study him carefully. You don't feel it, do you? No. Why? Because I've never hidden. The simplicity of that answer settles deep. He was never neutral. Never invisible. Never protected by distance. I was. And I chose to remove it. Do you regret me? He asks. It's the first time he's asked anything resembling vulnerability. No. Even now. Especially now. He watches me carefully. You understand this is permanent. Yes. You understand there's no reversal. Yes. You understand you won't be invited back into neutrality. Yes. And you don't want to be. I hold his gaze. No. Later, alone in his bedroom, I stand at the window again. The city doesn't look hostile anymore. It looks structured. Layered. Predictable. Like everything else in my life now, I think about the woman I was before him. Measured, disciplined, neutral. And I realize I am still all of those things. I simply chose where to stand. That's the difference. The girls gather without me sometimes now. I see it in passing. Shared laughter, private conversation. It stings, but it doesn't unravel me, because I understand something I didn't before. Safety and alignment are not the same thing. Neutrality kept me safe. Roman doesn't. But he never pretended to. You knew, he says quietly later, lying beside me. Yes. You calculated. Yes. And you stepped anyway. Yes. His hand rests at my waist, not protective, not possessive, present. You're not ruined, he says. No. You're exactly where you intended to be. I consider that. Yes. I am. There is no dramatic reconciliation, no sweeping forgiveness, no restored innocence. The fractures remain, the friendships altered, the rooms recalibrated, the narrative shifted. But I stand in it without trembling, because I chose it, not blindly, not recklessly, with full awareness. This will ruin me, I thought, but ruin implies collapse. And I did not collapse. I redefined. In the end, it wasn't about loving a dangerous man. It was about stepping into visibility and refusing to apologize for it. Roman didn't save me. He didn't break me. He didn't shield me. He stood there. And I walked to him. The cost was real. The consequence permanent. The alignment undeniable. And I paid it willingly. I don't miss neutrality. I don't miss invisibility. I don't miss being the observer on the edge of the room. Because now, when the room shifts, it shifts around me. And I don't step back. This was never a story about falling. It was about stepping forward, fully aware. Roman never promised safety. He never softened the cost. And I didn't ask him to. If my story stayed with you, if you understand the difference between recklessness and decision, then you understand me. Thank you for listening. The next story in 7 Friends Who Fell Too Fast is coming, and her choice may not be as controlled or as careful. If this one pulled at you, stay with the series. Tell me in the comments, would you have chosen visibility knowing it would cost you everything comfortable? And let me know where you're listening from. I love seeing how far these stories reach. Stay close. Natalie's story is next. See you in the next book.